Hi guys, today I'm going to teach you two techniques. They are called masking and mirroring. So masking is the technique where I have an image and I want to overlay that image without causing overlap with inking or the design. So like in this case here, I have two penguins side by side, and if I were to just stamp one over the other, I might get this overlay of his little flipper on top of this other flipper. It may not look so bad, but in certain instances, maybe you don't want that. And so I'll show you this technique called masking. And the mirroring is basically taking one stamp image and mirroring it. So if let's say this penguin is facing here to the right, I want the penguin to face to the left. So I'm gonna make a mirror image. And yeah, that's a pretty fun and techniques that can be kind of helpful. So here I bought this little stamp set. It's a little clear stamp from Michael's, and I just thought it was super cute. But I do want to point out that you do have to be careful when it comes to clear stamps because the quality can really range. These are just like your average clear stamps that are pretty, relatively inexpensive. And so it's made out of this like material that's not that long lasting, I would say. So here what happened was I accidentally ripped the stamp in two places. So I wasn't too careful. That's what ended up happening, and it just tore. So now this little stamp is super fragile. That's not ideal, obviously. I normally actually learned I wouldn't buy these kind of clear stamps because of that, but I actually have a number of them that as long as I am very careful and I take care of them very well, and I am gentle when I pull them out so they don't rip, then they work fine. So you just have to be more careful with these. I've had this stamp probably for quite a few years, and I haven't used it a lot. I probably only used it 2 or 3 times. So the first time it was one of my very first stamps, so I think I just wasn't careful and it tore. And then as I used it, actually recently when I tried to open it up, it tore even more. So that's unfortunate. The stamp is just super cute to me, so we'll just have to keep being gentle with it for as long as I can. Anyway, so there you have your stamped image. And so the first technique we're going to discuss is masking. And the way I would do that is I would take, I'd take a piece of paper here. This is about a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to go ahead and just ink that up. Here I'm going to use my VersaFine Onyx Black. It's a really nice black ink. It's super dark. It's just really nice. Oops, excuse me, sorry about that here. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this little guy here. And there, even with that little crack, that tear, he turned out really great. And I want to make a mask of him. So now I want to stamp multiple penguins, but I don't want that overlay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to go ahead and ink him on a Post-it stamp. This is just your average office supply Post-it here. And what I like about this, it has some adhesive, so that's actually kind of helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this guy here. Pick up some of that on the adhesive side. And there I've created my mask. So what does that mean? Well, I cut him out, and for time-saving purposes, I am going to just pull my little mask guy here. This is one I made a very long time ago. It's still a little sticky. And what I did is just cut him out. Now, what I do is I'm going to cover him. I'm going to cover over the image. So when I stamp again, I don't like having ink because it can smudge. Now I'm going to stamp him again. And since I'm going to stamp him over because he's pretty close behind this guy, the image is just going to pick up what's not covered. So if I peel him off, there he goes, right behind the other guy. So it tends to work out pretty well. If I want to do it again, this time, let's say I don't want to pick up anything else. If when I stamp another guy, I'll do the same thing again here. Make sure he's layered over. Let me get some scrap paper because I don't want to ruin the edge here. And then I'm going to stamp a partial dude, not too far. Like that. See? So there you go. Very clean, really nice. So you have to be careful. I pick up these little, when I pick up my inks, my fingers have little black ink marks on it. It tends to smudge, so I want to be really careful with that. Alright, so there's my little mask. And what I usually do to store my mask so I don't have to make a bunch of them is I just actually store them on top of the image. That way whenever I want to use it, it's available. I can just pick them up and use them. Alright, so that's what masking looks like. So let's look at mirroring. Mirroring is a pretty fun technique. It does require you to go out and get a stamping mirror. Now I got this, like, I think what they call a eraser stamp at Daiso. And it was just in the stationery section. Again, I bought this many years ago, so I don't know if they still have it. But this is actually for carving out your own stamped images. But for me, I like, since it's like a nice flat rubbery piece. You can see I've used it a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and use this as my mirror, my stamp for mirroring. So what I do, I'm gonna go ahead and use this clean side. That ink really just gets everywhere. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this ink. I'm gonna ink this little penguin up. Okay. Then I'm gonna stamp him. Let's say I stamp him in this corner here, as I regularly would. So what happens is now this rubber sheet has picked up the image. And then I'm gonna lay it. The hard part with this is you won't be able to see exactly where he lands. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay him somewhere around there. And then I'm just gonna press on it like it were a regular stamp. And there he goes. So now you have, he's a little bit off center, but that's okay. And he doesn't come as crisp. That is something to warn you about. In this case, I think it's fine because he's a penguin and there's a lot of black. If I want to go in and clean it up with the outlines, I can go ahead and do that. You know, so, and that's actually what I did here on this other image. Let me grab it real quick. See, I did kind of use a Sharpie actually. And I can go ahead and do that with these guys to make them more crisp. But, you know, otherwise you couldn't really tell. And that's kind of how you do mirroring. So it's not a perfect technique. In my case here, I could, if I want to dedicate this sheet to like this penguin, for example, I could go ahead and just cut it so I could be more precise with where he lands. But since this is I call it my mirroring sheet, I just use it for any stamp that I want the flexibility that I could put any stamp that will fit for this sheet. I did do another one here. You see an outline of this girl. It's a Stamping Bella stamp. I'll show you how that turned out. Here. So actually this one here is the original. And you can see that the lines are super crisp. And I wanted to do a mirror image. And what happened is I did use that block. And it looks like it just doesn't come out as crisp. It could be that as I'm pressing, maybe I'm smudging a little because I want to make sure that image is, you know, gets on there. But it isn't too terrible. Like, I feel it's definitely something I can work with. Especially since I'm using black for a lot of my images as far as the outlines. So I can always trace it. Anywhere I miss, I could always trace it with a black ink pen. Or cover over it where I need to. So yeah, that's kind of how, and I can show you a little card I made. Here's a card I made a few years ago actually. So it's the little penguin shuffle is part of the stamp here. I just thought it was really funny. And my friend had this little guy So I borrowed him and I stamped him. And all these little guys are sort of just like shuffling around. Yeah, so that's one thing you could do with masking. And then with mirroring, I haven't played with it too much. I just know sometimes it's nice to have an image facing the other way, depending on what other supplies you have. All right, that's all I wanted to show you guys. I do want to tell you a few other things. I have 2 black inks, and VersaFine Onyx is my very black ink, which I really like for sentiments. I can use it for embossing, which I've done as well with clear emboss powder. And this is my Memento. This is a dye ink. And this one is not as dark, it's not as black, but this I can use with my alcohol markers, my Copics. If I try to use this ink with my Copics, it will bleed like crazy. It will smudge, it will pick up the black. I'll get this weird like black and color image, which I'm not fond of. This dye ink works really well with those Copics or any other kind of alcohol marker. So that's something to be aware of. Just so you guys are aware, I will link, I know that not everyone has this. It's hard to clean. I just started using it. It still works as far as I can tell, this eraser stamp that you could try to find at Daiso. Otherwise, and the nice thing was like a few bucks, so it wasn't too expensive. Otherwise, I'll try to find some online, some more standard ones you could use specific for mirroring. I think it's really just having a flat rubber surface. I tried using my block. I was like, oh, maybe it's like a smooth surface that could work, but it didn't really pick up. When I tried to transfer the image, it didn't really do very well. The other thing I thought about, I think acetate, maybe some people have tried with acetate. I have not tried that, so I couldn't tell you, but my guess is it may not work as well. It may work similarly to this clear block where you need something more rubbery with some that will help make that image adhere. All right, that's all. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, I wanted to show you what I ended up doing with the little pinwins and their little mirroring. So here is what I did. I took up, I cut the paper 8.5 by 11 in half lengthwise so that I got this open fold this way. And then I went ahead and just used this brown cardstock that I got from Michael's. I want to say it's like a paper bag color. And then I also got this specialty paper, glitter paper, the light blue. I stamped this Hi There from Lawn Fawn stamp set, which I'll show you. And yeah, then I put the card together like that. Very simple, kind of different. I wanted to make this one a little more unique as far as it goes for a Christmas or winter card. I did the same thing for the second one since I did make 2. The only thing here was I wanted to cover that smudge, so I just stuck these little blue flowers or snowflakes, whatever you want to think of them as. I did the same thing with the color, paper bag, cardstock color, and the light blue with glitter. I did stick these little googly eyes on my little pinwins here, but for some reason they are cross-eyed and I can't seem to. When I placed them, they did not look like that, and they don't move too much. This one's like permanently stuck that way, which I think is cute. If you don't want that look, one thing you could do is if you have tweezers, you can be very precise on how you place those little googly eyes. I didn't have tweezers, so I just stuck them with my fingers and they landed wherever they landed, which I'm okay with. I just decided that I wasn't going to do it for the second card. I just left the little pinwins looking this way instead. So there you go. That's some cards you can make with the mirroring technique. All right, thanks. Bye.